raised in the church, figuring that church would solve everything. That's what
Mhm.
they tell you. When you get saved, all your problems disappear. The only thing they didn't say was you can't lump all your problems up in one ball, and that ball is taken care of forever. They didn't say that you had to work through each little process here and there, you know?
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Inspiring Beauty and Believers. I'm Song, and today we're going to continue our journey of healing with the voices of women. So, my guest today is Q, and she is going to talk to us about her journey in parental abandonment and how she has healed and continues to heal through that journey. Hey, Q, how you doing?
Hey.
Don't let her play shy because she can talk a lot.
Yes, I can. I'm trying to I'm trying to look at the camera the right way. Sorry. Where do I start?
Tell me about your childhood.
Okay, I'm going to attempt to do this without crying.
Okay.
Okay. So I am the youngest of two. My sister and I, my mother, who is deceased and have been deceased for 18 years, or I should say 18 and a half years. Sorry, I'm trying to get my composure. Um, she was a single mom. She had me at 19, and um, she had my sister at 17. I found myself when I was coming up. Um, I found myself competing with my sister, and I found myself competing for attention from my mother. Um, the gentleman that gave me his last name, Donald, he gave us his last name. My biological father gave up his parental rights when I was 4. He was in jail. My dad was in jail, and he was also a teenage father. He was 16 and my mother was 18. And growing up as a child, you know that there is something different when your sibling looks different from you. And you wonder certain things. You can't put your friend, can't really like deal with anything because you're a child, you don't know. I had epilepsy, like silent seizures when I was younger. Um, when I was younger, I thought um, I felt like it was so bad because I was the youngest and I got picked on, I got teased, I got treated different or whatever. A lot of things took place that children should not experience, but things do happen. And I I remember being, I'm going to say about 8 or 9, and I'm not even sure where it came from, but I remember wanting to take a butter knife and commit suicide with a butter knife. Just wanted to do that. And I used to have seizures all the time from getting overheated. I would pass out. Um, I wouldn't say I was sickly, but I was because I used to puke all the time. If my body got overheated, I would just pass out no matter where I was standing or whatever. And I didn't get to do the things that my sister could do. My aunt, who had five children, I was the youngest girl. So coming up, I remember them being allowed to do stuff and me not being allowed to do stuff. I remember also, um, I remember not knowing who my biological father was, but I also remember my dad that raised me, him and my mom getting a divorce. I remember going to visit the man that I grew up calling Daddy. I remember going to visit him when they had separated, and Come to find out, long story short, he didn't have biological children, but he took us as his children. And then he ended up marrying somebody that him and my mom both knew. And I'm not mentioning a whole lot about my mom because she didn't know how to communicate with us. But I do remember communicate with her before she passed away, about 3 years before she passed away. She said, I had a conversation with her, and she was crying because she felt like she should have been the one to teach me the things that I learned, but she wasn't. She taught me the best way that she knew how. And I accepted that a long time ago. And so I found myself learning, and I'll be backtracking a little bit, but I found myself learning a lot of things from people on the bus, watching TV, just other people, because I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know how to navigate through different things. I didn't know where I grew up. I grew up where people say they say mother instead of mother. So I learned a lot of my dialogue and communication skills through catching the MTA bus in Baltimore. We didn't have school buses where I lived. That was for the county students. That was for living, we walked to school or we caught the bus. So I always felt like I was treated differently than my sister. When I would ask my mom about my dad, she said the only thing she could tell me was that he had 2 sisters. That was it. She would always rant and rave about my sister's dad having green eyes and how he was light skinned and this, but she couldn't tell me anything about my dad.
Right.
So I always felt like I had to prove myself to everybody. Like I had to know what I was talking about. I had to surround myself with people that could tell me different things. I was always like curious, like, and connecting to other people and their family. That was my family. Everybody else's family was my family because my family I had no connection with, other than the fact we grew up in the same house, other than the fact me and my sister, we had the same mother, but I never wanted my mom to feel like she had to compete, or that growing up being a mom, once I became a mom and along with having muscular dystrophy, I used to wonder why she couldn't do certain things, and her mom didn't have the best relationship. And then to find out that my grandmother and her father didn't have the best relationship.
So it's generational issues.
Yes. Which caused me to not have the best, caused me to at one point not have the best relationship with my girls. And I've had to go through counseling, and even to the point where I decided to go get to counseling for myself when I got married to a person that he had problems himself. So I had issues. He had issues. I was raised in the church too. Raised in the church, figuring that church would solve everything. That's what they tell you. When you get saved, all your problems disappear. The only thing they didn't say was you can't lump all your problems up in one ball, and that ball is taken care of forever. They didn't say that you had to work through each little process here and there,
Right. You don't get Jesus and then everything changes.
Right.
You spiritually change, but you still got to
Right.
work out your soul, your mind, will, and emotions. You have to get all of that stuff situated.
Right.
With your mother before she passed, you were able to talk with her and her really to be able to open up. Did that help you to resolve any feelings that you had?
Yeah, I remember I moved away to the Eastern Shore where she was from. I moved to the Eastern Shore. And my husband, at the time he was my husband, um, he
Did
and
you say
I,
husband?
yes,
That's a guy. I never
my
heard that
husband.
before.
I borrowed it from a previous neighbor. I asked her could I borrow it. She said yes. So I coined it. So we were in the habit of taking my mom grocery shopping and different things like that. My mom had gotten married a second time, and we would go pick her up, and we would go out grocery shopping. And I remember showing my mother how to pick the best price.
Mhm.
And I remember her saying, she was crying. I said, "What's wrong with you?" She said, "I'm supposed to be teaching you how to shop." And that was a moment for her. She said, "You supposed to learn stuff from me, not me learn stuff from you." I said, "But it's okay. We can learn from each other, you
Mhm.
know?" So yeah, that was the moment that we had. She was 47. She was 47 at the time, and she died at 50. Her mom didn't talk to her about stuff. She didn't talk to her about the birds and the bees, because my grandmother probably didn't know. She didn't talk to my mom a lot about stuff. My mom didn't talk to me a lot about stuff. Me, I want to know, so I'm going to ask any and everybody until I can get the satisfaction that I understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, life can't be like this. I can't just take somebody's word for it. I need to know why. She would tell me things, but she couldn't tell me why. I grew up in the because I said so household. That's the era I grew up in, because I said so.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we became really, really good friends. Um, I planned a funeral. I did her hair, picked out her clothes um, for the funeral, and I was the very one that she had when she got sick. She had told my sister and my cousin. She said, "Promise me you won't tell niece." I'm the youngest. She said, "Don't tell her that I'm sick."
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. She didn't tell me. They didn't tell me. Um, the Lord told me, but we were the best of friends before she passed. Like, if she needed something, I was there. The only thing that she wanted to spend time with my oldest daughter, and I wouldn't let her because she had muscular dystrophy like me. And I
Mm-hmm.
was afraid that she might drop her, or she couldn't do what needs to be done for her. And I felt bad about that.
Mm-hmm.
I call myself being a mom. And she's like,
Protecting
"Niece,
your,
just let."
yeah, protecting your child.
Right. I guess about a year or so afterwards is when she died.
Mm-hmm.
She must have known then that she was going to die. And that was hard. But that was my baby. That was my baby.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, she did she did what she could. She dropped out of high school at the 11th grade because she was pregnant with my sister. And she was really, really stern about education, though. Really firm about education. She went back for her GED and things like that. And now I wanted to celebrate her. But
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I wanted her to do was live her life and not let anybody dictate to her what she could and couldn't do. We were really good. We were really good friends afterwards. After we broke the ice about what I thought, and she said, well, she couldn't talk to me about different things because she didn't know herself. So,
Right. And that's
yeah,
usually what happens is um, we have a perception as children of why things are the way they are, or why our parents aren't there, or they don't communicate with us. But sometimes they're embarrassed because they don't know. They've never been taught how to do this stuff. Nobody ever taught them. Nobody taught them how to love and communicate and embrace and nurture and things. And so, they're doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. And
right.
I'm thankful that you were able to be able to have that time with her before she passed in order to clear the air and mend that relationship, because it's
Yeah,
so important. I know that, and I've said this before, I spent years, growing up and then even after becoming an adult with resentments towards my parents because of what I expected of them or what I thought they should have been as parents. But after really working on my own healing and then really talking to them and finding out they didn't know what they were doing, and nobody had ever taught them, and they were going through their own things that they had to heal from. They did the best that they could, and then especially having children of my own, and that was really the thing that
right,
helped me to work on my own healing. Was when you have your own kids, most people, I can't say everybody, but most people want to be good parents. And
right,
you
right,
don't want to make the mistakes that you said your parents made. And but the only way you can do that is you have to work on yourself. And so I had to go
right,
back and look at what areas in my life that I need to heal from so that I didn't pass this on to my children, and evaluate those things and evaluate how I talk to them, so that I'm not injuring them in a way that they're going to have to get healing from. Now, I can't help everything that I do or how they perceive everything,
right.
but I try to be cautious of how I talk to them. Um, so I'm glad that you were able to recognize that and even work through that for yourself so that you can be able to mend the relationships with your children as well.
Yeah, I'm still working through stuff.
Hmm.
Um, because even as an adult, after my mom passed, my sister said we were having some kind of conversation, and she told me that my mom when my mom was 8 years old, my mom was raped at 8 years old,
Hmm.
and I'm like, well, that explains a lot. That explains so much. She never told me that. Well, if she, of course, me being 2 years younger than my sister, I wouldn't have known.
Right.
I didn't grow up knowing that. So I just, I'm like, wow. And then with her having that happen to her, you know, she was promiscuous. I don't know when that started, but she had different relationships, but then to find out that my grandmother had different relationships,
Hmm.
and I'm like, golly. So we don't know, how things will affect us until they affect us or infect us. We just
Right.
don't know. Some things become an infection, and the only way to treat or deal with an infection is to um, treat it, make sure get the right medicine, or natural herbs. I like the natural stuff.
Right.
You can deal with a lot of infections with natural herbs and things. So just counseling, I think, is a treatment, and if it's applied correctly, it will deal with the not just the symptoms. It'll help you work through everything. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I'm glad I had the opportunity to connect with her. Also, the way that God blessed me was to have a godmother in my life. Um, and so she was the other entity that I needed.
Hmm.
You know, she's still there. She's still my mom, and that was a whole big thing. So, I've heard people say over the years, it takes a whole community, a whole village to raise
Right.
one child.
Yes.
And I'm a product of being raised by a whole community where your neighbor could beat your tail before your mama got home. And then when she
And
got
then
home, she beat
tell.
you. And then she
Mm-hmm.
tell your daddy that he gets you on Saturday mornings when you think you're going to watch cartoons. I'm a product, and I'm so glad that um, I was able to come out of, you know, certain things and show my children, hey, yeah, I went through this or I did this. Yes, I own my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But just, but at the same time, find better ways to be a better you.
Right. Did you hear that? She
Better
said, own
ways.
your stuff. You need to own your issues. Stop making excuses and blaming other people for it, because you can only go so far.
Yes.
Really, I know a lot of people, say, well, I'm this way because this happened to me, or this happened to me, or I was molested, and I was abused, and my mama wasn't there, my daddy wasn't there, all these things. And I'm not saying those are not valid reasons to have issues.
Right.
That's what we're here talking about. But
Exactly.
you never get to the place of healing until you own the fact that you are the one who has to do something about this. It is not up to what happens if your parents are dead or the person who molested you is dead. Like, they're gone. They can't fix it for you. And even if they were here, even if they apologize, it does not fix what happened in your past. You can never go back and change it. So you have to do the work to heal that now. Like,
Yeah.
your parents can apologize to you 100 times over, but until you deal with how it affected you on the inside, then you're going to carry that with you, and it's going to keep affecting you, and then it will bleed over into your children or your relationships. If whatever relationships you have, it's always going to affect other people because you're not willing to own it and deal with it yourself. You cannot keep making excuses for why you are the way you are.
Right.
That's my
And one of
tangent.
the things, oh, sorry, Tiger.
No, that was my tangent. Okay, I'm good. We go back.
One of the things we also have to realize is figuring out why you do what you do, whether you do it because that's what you were taught,
Mm-hmm.
or whether you're doing it because you want to. Once you figure that out, then you halfway there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we do things because that's what our environment told us, or made it look like that's all we could do, or that's all we could afford, or
Mm-hmm.
that's that was it for us.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other times where the even though some of the choices we make are because of what we are used to doing,
Mm-hmm.
there's a time in our life where we should not just do things because or blame it on this is how I grew up. If you and this is me, this is what I had to do. I decided that okay, just because my environment said XYZ doesn't mean I have to continue doing XYZ. I need to I'm going to keep going to the ends of the earth until I can find, or till I feel like I found the answer.
Right.
Like somebody gonna help me do something. I'm gonna find it somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to make up in our minds to do. No matter what happened, it happened. We can't change it, but we can choose to live in it and stay in it,
Mm-hmm.
or we can choose to work our way out of it. Even though we have memories, we don't have to live in that. We don't have to live in the past.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then to be raised by a man that's not your biological father, and your father exists. He exists, but you have no relationship.
So with the man who was raising you, I know you said that they got a divorce. Are you
Yeah.
still in contact with him? Is he still in your life? Does he still play a role as your father, or when the relationship ended, did that completely end that relationship with you and him?
Glad you asked that question.
Because sometimes, people be
I,
like, well, if I ain't with the mama, the kids ain't mine, and I'm.
well, um, when he still wanted to be in our life, I was raised military.
Mhm.
The young lady that he married was a friend of, was 10, back in the day, they could be, if you were tall, you looked older,
Mhm.
so this young lady is 10 years younger than he. And when my mom and he got married, got divorced, and they were together, all of them hung around each other. All of them hung around each other. And I'm like trying to figure out, well, she must have really been tall. Like she looked older than what she did.
Mhm.
But she was younger. And he wanted to be in our life. I'm guessing, or after my mom she's dealt with the fact that they were divorced or divorcing. He was already seeing the young lady, and they got married. We weren't invited to the wedding,
Mhm.
um, and that was hurtful because at that point that was the only dad that I knew.
Right.
Um, but then something. I know I was 12. I remember him writing a letter to my sister and I to tell us that him and my mom was getting a divorce. My mom didn't tell us
Mhm.
that we read the letter, and then I heard my mom in the bedroom with my aunt telling my aunt, and she was using code words. And she said the letter D, we're getting a D. And I was like, oh, I wasn't dumb. I mean, I knew what that meant. You trying to spell? I mean, I'm 12. You do realize I'm 12.
Mhm.
And so I started crying, and my sister was like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? I said, Mommy and Daddy getting a divorce. And he wasn't in our life. Well, she wouldn't let us around him because of who he was with.
Mm.
Missed a whole lot of years. I think that is the point in my life where things started to change for me. He was the only dad that I knew.
Right.
Even though when I was 4, I remember being in the courtroom underneath my mom's chair. I remember some man coming in with handcuffs on. And it wasn't until I found my biological father when I got older. That's a whole nother can of worms. Um, I searched for him 3 different times, 18, 21, and found him at 25. And he had the exact same memory that I had. My mom's excuse, or my mom's story, was your dad said that you wasn't his, so she didn't allow him to be around me. The man that raised me, nobody told me that that he wasn't my biological father. I found out in my school records.
Oh, wow.
I happened to be helping in the office one day at the end of the school year, and I'm being nosy. I'm gonna look for my record. I want to see what's in there. And that's when I found out I had an address and everything. And I asked my mom who he was, and that's when she told me.
Mhm.
That's how I found out that the man that was raising me wasn't my dad.
Mm.
Yes.
So how did that make you feel, finding out through your school records?
Had a lot of questions. I was confused a little bit. But I'm glad that I did, because it started making sense.
Mm-hmm.
It started to make sense. And my sister's dad, because the man that raised us was not a biological father. Her
Mm-hmm.
father is different than my father biologically.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me feel good. I was like, oh, I got another family out there somewhere. Maybe it's better with, maybe they weren't wondering about me too. So I was like, all these questions. Did he want me? Did he not want me? Of course, my mom was like, well, he said you wasn't his.
Mm-hmm.
And so come to find out, my dad, when I met, and this is so crazy, I was a baby. And I do remember, because I remember asking my mom, who was the man in the army jacket?
Mm.
And she said, what man? I said, I remember a house. I remember a man coming in the house. I said we were in some house with a fence around the front yard. And I said, I remember a light-skinned man coming in the house with a big afro and an army jacket on. And she's looking at me like, how do you know about that? How do you remember that? You were a couple of days old coming from the hospital.
Oh, wow.
And come to find out, it was my uncle TT on my dad's side. He was coming home from the military and he wanted to see me.
Mm.
And I remember that. Don't ask me how, but I remember. I remember that when I reconnected with my dad, I asked the question. I said, "Well, who is the guy, the light skinned guy with the big afro in the army jacket?" And they was like, "Your Uncle TT." Well, the man that I remember had already passed away,
Mm.
and so they said when he got out the army, he went to go see you. And they said, but you were just coming home from the hospital. So how do you remember that? I was like, I don't know. So they were like, I met my dad. My dad died he died a year and 3 months before my mom.
Mm.
And yeah, and he died of HIV. He was into sharing drug needles with whoever he was sharing with. And I got to meet him. I got to meet my grandmother. And I found I felt like a whole person. I didn't care. I said, look, I don't care nothing about why you and my dad didn't stay together. I don't care who said what. I don't care. I just want to be a whole person.
Right.
I don't want to do to my kids. I don't want to give my kids this feeling that I grew up with. I don't want that. I want to give them my whole self. Like, I want to let them know, hey, it's okay to feel a certain way, but it's also okay to fix it.
Right.
So I was able to do that. And he passed away not too long after we met, but I got to spend time with him. Took him to dinner and, I met my uncles, I met some of my aunties and my little sister who doesn't remember me now, but I got to meet her. Marvin Jerome Patterson was my biological father. Donald Eugene Hope was my daddy. Is my daddy, excuse me, because he's still living. He's still my daddy, even though he's married and have 2 daughters that he birthed. He gave us his last name, so there is no stepdaughter. There is none of that. I am his daughter, and so is my sister.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt abandoned. I felt like everybody moved away from me, like everybody just left me, and that's how I felt. So his wife that he's married to, she used to introduce me as, oh, this is Donald's stepdaughter. Oh, this is Donald's step. She had to throw that in there.
Mm-hmm.
But he gave us his last name, so I wasn't his stepdaughter. I was his daughter.
Right.
I am his daughter. But at growing up, you hear this step. I'm like, so me and her used to get into it, but that's a whole nother segment. I felt like you marry my daddy, he has a package. You can't marry, if somebody has children before you get married, whether they're biological or whether you adopted them and gave them your last name, those are your children. Right. So if somebody's going to connect with you, they have to take you and the package. If they don't want the package, then there is no you.
Exactly.
There is no connecting with me without my package. We're a package deal. So I'm a better person. I do speak to him. I do every once in a while check in with him. I don't do it as much. He communicates with my sister. He the first time in a lot of years, he called me on my birthday and sung happy birthday to me. And it was funny because he realized he said the wrong age and started laughing at himself on the voicemail. And I still have it. Oh, and I check on him, and I do talk to his wife, and not very often because I don't want her calling me Quanetta. And yeah, I have to work with her. I have to work with her. So
Is there anything else that you wanted to share about your journey through healing?
regardless of what my mom didn't know or what I felt like she didn't do at the time, I wanted to heal for myself. Um, I wanted to heal for my children and my grandchildren that I could see in my future. Mm-hmm. And so on and so on and so on. My lineage. I wanted to heal for my lineage. I want to show my family, other women, other men that have to go through the same situation of feeling abandoned, that, hey, it doesn't matter. It does not matter what happened between the parents. It doesn't matter. All that matters is what you do to invest. Now, and don't take it personal when the other parent doesn't want to reciprocate the feelings that you've been carrying around, because some people just don't know how to communicate. They didn't have the tools. Some people still stuck. They still stuck, and we can't blame them for we can't expect everybody to respond in the way that we have had to respond. Everybody's in a different place, and you have to be okay with where they are. And at some point, you do your part and love them. Like, hey man, just checking on them. Hey ma, I just called, check on whatever. You do your part, whether they call you back or not. Get it off of it. Get it off of here. Mm-hmm. Because this right here, this heart, that stress to kill it. Stress to kill it. And it's not worth it. Yeah. So, yes, ma'am.
I think that really tied into, because my next question was, what advice would you give to someone else in their healing journey? But I think that really summed it up. It's not our job to heal somebody else or make somebody else receive healing. All we can do is make sure that we get healed for our lineage. I love that. Healing for your lineage. So that is good.
That I'm sorry.
Girl, go ahead. Because when you said that, I was like, I'm about to put that on something.
I know. Look, we're gonna split the proceeds.
Yes. I'll hook you up since you coined it.
Yes. So when we look at, because we have to change our vocabulary. When we look at, because we famous for saying it, I need to heal for me. It doesn't just stop with you. It doesn't just stop with healing for your children. It's your lineage. And I remember my sister telling me, she said, niece, you have to be, because of different things that have happened in my life, she said, I believe you had to be the one to break the generational curse. Yeah. It had to stop with you. And I believe that. The hell I had to experience.
Girl, I just got chills on it.
The hell, fire and brimstone that I had to experience was worth it to get where I am and where I'm going.
Yes.
For my lineage.
Yes.
Just those words right there.
Yes.
A heart with a Band-Aid on it. Now, y'all heard it here first.
Mm-hmm.
You know how that everybody has their broken heart?
Mm-hmm.
No more.
No more broken hearts.
No more. No. Get them dissolvable stitches, because they dissolve on their own when it's time, Yes, get the Band-Aids and all those medical stuff. I'll get all of that. There's no more broken hearts. We healed for our lineage, for my lineage. I got to heal for my lineage. That's the only way that the nation can heal. Yeah. Because we can't just stop with one or two generations. It's from generation to generation to generation to generation. So
I wish I had something to throw, but I don't want to break no stuff. All I got right here is my.
Girl, this from earlier. This from earlier. This from earlier. And I had to tell you about that because we was throwing stuff earlier in singles ministry. I ain't had no look. They had pens and things. They were dropping the pens. I ain't had no pens, so I just picked up a piece of paper and that's this through it.
That is so good. Oh, that is so good.
Yeah, and this is why I had to come here to Arizona. That's a whole nother story. Well, I'm not going to tell it today, but I had to come here for this time such as these.
Mm-hmm. We have been called for a time such as this. We have great work to do. But first, the work starts with healing ourselves.
Yay!
Girl, don't start me on here preaching. I'm trying to keep my composure. Jesus!
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I ain't gonna ask you again if you got any other closing stuff because we're gonna start a whole nother service.
Don't.
So
nope, I don't have anything to do. I don't have nothing to say.
All right. I hope that you all enjoyed this. Listen, this was a word. It was a whole word. I hope y'all enjoyed this word today. I thank you for joining us. I thank you for going with us on this healing journey, healing from parental abandonment and those parental scars so that we can grow and so that we can heal for our lineage. Yeah, y'all gonna see some shirts, something. It's gonna happen. Healing for our lineage. But,
yes.
Thank you guys for joining us today. Keep coming back. Stay tuned because there's going to be more videos. We're gonna keep talking about this. There's going to be more stuff coming. I will let y'all know about that later, but I have more stuff coming out so that we can really start working through this process. But continue to join us as we talk to other people who are healing in their own journey and letting you know that you are not by yourself. You're not the only person who's gone through this. And you too can heal if you choose to heal. So remember to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Like this, comment below what you got from this message, and share it with